Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. If you're paying attention, you know that you only make money when you work. It might be great money, but it's dependent on you. The information on this podcast will help you solve that. We interview experts and provide analysis into financial freedom through commercial real estate. Why? To help physicians like you thrive. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. This is your host, Dr. Michael McManus, and we are here today with Tre Bordeaux, who currently serves as Vice President, specializing in industrial and logistics on the Peterson Industrial Team in the Salt Lake City office of Legend Partners. Tre's area focus is 5,000 to 500,000 square foot industrial real estate, specifically in Salt Lake City, Davis, Weber, and Utah counties, representing all real estate needs for landlords, tenants, buyers, and sellers. Tre also focuses on sale and lease and build-to-suit developments involving manufacturing plants, distribution warehouses, R&D facilities, and other light industrial properties. Tre started his career in commercial real estate in 2018 after finishing his economics degree at the University of Utah. Tre has successfully closed over $150 million in transactions over his 6-year career. His success in the early stages of his career has earned him respect throughout the entire brokerage community. He is highly equipped with knowledge in real estate, research, sales, and marketing. Possessing exceptional interpersonal skills and analyzing strategic planning have all allowed him to have great success in his first 6 years. Tre has a drive to take care of his clients and cater to the various needs that are becoming harder and harder to find in Utah's real estate market. Brings a great amount of diversity as well as a vast number of connections that include many decision-making individuals in the state of Utah. His outreach, knowledge, and success at such a young age in the industry have proven he will continue to be known as a figure in the brokerage community for years to come. I love that bio, Tre.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. So are you a Utah native here?
Yes. Yeah. Born and raised 28 years.
Awesome. You know, we were talking a little bit just beforehand, having grown up in Colorado, there's like this great coup of the Colorado ski country USA that you grow up thinking that there really isn't any skiing anywhere else worth knowing about. And first time I came to Salt Lake City, I was like, what? They didn't tell me the mountains were so close here.
Right.
So
30 minutes. It's bad with traffic now, but yeah, they're right there in the backyard. You see them every day. I'm looking out the window at them right now. So it's nice.
yeah, it's an awesome place. So you went to the University of Utah, so right here, and then what brought you into commercial real estate with an econ degree?
Well, the diploma, or the degree, if you will, was just part of kind of the parent plan, if you will. Went to the U, knew I needed to go to college, always kind of knew I wanted to go into real estate. Wasn't really sure, honestly, until about my senior year of college that I was probably going to be in commercial real estate. I actually started at Sotheby's in Park City, doing an operations intern there, and that's kind of my boss at the time there was just like, I really think you would do well in commercial real estate, and I think that there's a better path for you than what it would be as a young individual in luxury real estate. So after my internship there, I kind of just plugged away and looking for a commercial internship that'll allow me to be taught what I needed to be taught to understand. And yeah, that's pretty much how it went. Ended up in the business that way and found a good opportunity. And yeah.
That's awesome. So for a lot of our listeners are a little newer to this realm, and I've kind of had this question before. So what's really the difference between a commercial broker and the real estate agent that most people know who sell residential?
Yeah. It's funny, in our world, it's so night and day different how we look at it, but it's truthfully not at the core. It's all sales at the end of the day. From the commercial side of things, there's a lot more nuances from business practices, understanding a transaction And more or less it's like a marriage on the leasing side. At least there's a marriage between a landlord and a tenant, and screening and backgrounds that go into those things. And that's there's four different main asset classes, I would say, in commercial real estate, office, industrial, multifamily, and retail. It's grown, obviously hospitality's in there, um, and some others, but those are the kind of the main core. So within that, it's a lot lot more complex than the everyday traditional selling a house. The transaction volumes are naturally higher in commercial assets, whether that's on the sell side or the leasing side. Average transaction value usually is going to be over $1 million or $2 million on any given deal, um, over roughly 10,000 feet. But yeah, so it's a little bit more complex. The basics are roughly the same, but there's some nuances that need to be understood from a business side of things when you're dealing with corporate entities, their legal counsel, and some of those other things. So the leasing side is definitely a little bit more complex. The selling at a basic level it's still a transaction. There's still due diligence. There's still financing, all of those things. So and it does get a little bit more complex in DD on the third party reports and what those mean. But yeah, so we look at it as a big difference, and there is in some aspects, but there are some similarities and some things that, are similar.
Do you find that your commercial clients come in knowing a little better what they're looking for, and are a little more focused on that, or kind of like somebody buying a house that maybe they're not really sure and they're looking to you to help them figure out exactly what they need?
Yeah, I figure that it comes really down to the size increment. When you're dealing with somebody more or less under 8 to 10,000 feet, they they are typically newer to the realm of commercial and how it works and how it does differ from buying a house, and even understanding the relationship with the real estate agent or broker is part of the education process. There's a lot more education that goes into the smaller increments because they're more or less new to business. Um, but anything over that, a lot of the times you'll be dealing with somebody who has maybe done more transactions than you on a national level. You can have a director of real estate for a company who's has a location or two locations in 50 states, and potentially international, that has probably transacted more than I have. So it kind of just depends, but there's usually some form of education along the way on both sides.
Okay. Um, so when you first started into this realm, what was I don't know, the biggest things you said? You're looking for an internship where they could teach you what you needed to know, of learning about being a broker in industrial real estate.
So I guess, are you asking what kind of went into it, or?
I guess, when you started out, so there's, you said it's all sales and there's kind of some different
Mhm.
things, but as far as, I guess, what was the biggest learning curve coming into industrial real estate that was really kind of
Okay.
the key to success?
Um, Honestly, not overcomplicating things. That's probably the simple truth. The learning curve is vertical in commercial real estate, regardless of asset. But in industrial, it's really logistics based and a numbers decision 90% of the time. Um, we don't really have to deal with the aesthetics, or there's not enough sunlight, or I don't like the color of the space. It's clear heights, it's loading, um, and that's really it. And rent, typically, rent is the second or third on your balance sheet for a business. Um, and so, we just try not to complicate it. What do you need? Here's the amount. Does it work? Yes or no? So I would say just not overcomplicating things, and that's typically, industrial's very, very wide as far as who you're dealing with. You could deal with the Amazons, which is somebody everybody's going to know, and that's the highest end. Or you could be dealing with a mom and pop shop who, is just moving out of their garage, um, and they don't understand. And your job is to just help them understand that it's not as complex as it may seem, it's still a function of rent that we're all in our society to this day. We all understand, and that's all it is.
Do you find that makes it probably a little bit easier that it's not like here's the great space, the perfect size, the perfect place, but if you're
Correct.
retail or office, they're like, ah, but it's
Correct.
an ugly building.
Correct. We don't get into traffic counts and a lot of those things. So
That is a nice part about industrial. Um, so let's jump into the Utah industrial market because it seems to me that over the last decade, oh wait, I want to go back. Sorry, we'll come back to Utah. So
yeah.
you graduated in 2018. So you were just kind of really getting going when everything got shut down with COVID. Did that, as far as what you guys were doing, were you able to keep transacting because industry was still flowing, or was it kind of this, oh my goodness, what am I going to do moment?
Um, both to an extent. So yeah, definitely as I got going, I started I started at the in the business in May of 2018. I was in research when I started, and I transitioned out of research in the fall of 18. And so I had a full year kind of under my belt by the time the pandemic came around. And the first 60 or 90 days of the pandemic were really interesting. I moved home. My whole family was there. My senior partner, Skylar, was, you know, trying to really just help us understand how much we needed to be involved in what was going on or finding a way or grinding something out, and just keeping things going. But it was hard because I wasn't touring as much. Offers, the activity just really wasn't there. So it was, how do I pivot to this new reality of what was my day-to-day gig? Um, and then, call it after 60 or 90 days of that, probably by call it June of 2020, it was just go, go, go. Um, I did a lot of the touring during that time, and my senior partner Skylar was just kind of in the back on the back end doing a lot of the actual transacting and proposals and lease structures and conversations and really the true deal making. My job was to kind of do the client facing, get him in the building, relay over that to him. And we actually, at the time, it was just really me and him. Then we have a team of 6 today, but we had our best year ever. And it all kind of just happened like that. And yeah, so it was super interesting. At first, it was very slow, and then next thing you know, just kind of like how supply chain was and logistics and things shipping from houses, it was on and moving. So a lot of companies were actually started to make decisions again, and yeah, it was an interesting time because it was still an election year, but certain things had to be done from a logistics standpoint of, hey, we need more space. Hey, we're downsizing. Hey, lease rates are fluctuating, subleasing space, all these things. There were so many business components, and oftentimes in commercial real estate and specifically for me, industrial real estate, you know, sometimes when the market's on a downturn, it seems to be just as busy, if not more busy, because of the logistic decisions that have to be made. So all of those factors, companies were downsizing, other companies were booming, and so it was this current constant fluctuation of solutions. What problem do you have? Where's the solution? How can we help? How can we bridge the gap? So it ended up being a really good year for us.
Oh, that's awesome. So going back to Salt Lake City, so Salt Lake has really been on a tear for a while, and a lot of people talk about that that really since that time, a lot of people started moving here because Utah was a bit more open for business, but it kind of started before that, is my impression with the whole. I guess if you could speak a little bit to the inland port and what the state and the city are really pushing, that this, I think it's been driving a lot of the industrial growth.
Yeah, it's definitely added to the conversation, is what I'd say. Um, it's complex for a lot of people to probably understand, where is the inland port? What is the inland port? How do I get the incentives? Is my building in the inland port? Um, but it's brought a lot of business, especially at post pandemic, to the market of people understanding what the opportunities are. But Utah has in general done that. Just we are super pro business, really good, progressive on the business side of pushing business and super friendly, a lot of incentives here. So our local government or state government mixed with the inland port and the idea of tax free logistics and opportunities is something that I think a lot of people, it was the added push for them to move to our market. It's something that still a lot of people in our market don't understand though. It exists. A lot of the dirt in that area is pretty much accounted for. There will be some other developments over the course of the next 3 to 5 years that do develop in that area, is what we view as the inland port. But for the most part, a good amount of the infrastructure is already in place.
And a lot of that reason, because I mean, really, Salt Lake is in the middle of the country. You got what I believe is the busiest east-west railroad comes through here. You got I-80 and I-15. So it really is
Correct.
kind of a natural logistics hub.
Absolutely.
And so in expanding that inland port, it seems like now some of the neighboring counties are kind of doing their own inland port, that there's a push as you go north to Ogden, going west out to, looks like Twilla's doing the same thing.
Yep.
Are those the kind of the things that are up and coming in the next few years? Or are there more things going on too?
There's those conversations are happening, and they've probably started happening more in the last, I would say, 90 days. Up north, even Brigham City, there's some potential for an opportunity there. Those are driving factors. It's going to be interesting to see how some of the things shake out. In Salt Lake County, our land supply we're mountain constraint. There's just not a lot of land left that's zoned industrial or will go that direction. So that is probably one of the main drivers and variables as it relates to things going to the submarkets, the outside the periphery, if you will. Whether it be Twilla, whether it be Ogden, Utah County's got a bigger growing market, and they will continue to have a growing market, especially in South Utah County. A lot of development down there, a lot of planned. So yeah, Utah as a whole, there's a lot to be seen, I guess, the next 3 to 5 years as far as land supply draining and becoming less and less. What that does to our market, does it turn into more of a California? I hate to say inland empire, just because that's one of the biggest and best markets in the nation. But what is it? Right now you can get dirt, you can get dirt under $1 million an acre depending on the site. But there's also sites that are really good sites that trade for higher than that. And where do we end up as the land supply continues to go down? So those are kind of the driving factors in pushing things to Twilla. Twilla's has a good industrial base. It will continue to grow. Some of the major family offices and local developers that have acquired large land tracts out there to go vertical on industrial developments when the time sees fit, as well as in Ogden BDO. Everything that they kind of have going up there has been great. They've had really good success. Years ago, there used to be a delta in the rents that they could get up in Ogden versus the rents that you could get next to the airport. But now there's not a huge delta anymore there. So they've seen a major growth there, and now it's just kind of figuring out how things track as this land supply goes down.
So it seems like there's still a lot of open land kind of northwest and west. Is that not developed because it's owned by the mine? Does the city have different plans, or why is there, we talk about this land constraint, but somebody goes out in West Salt Lake City and they're like, man, there's land all over the place out here.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. That's, if you look at a map, you're going to say you're crazy, Trey. No, you're right. The LDS Church Land Reserve owns quite a bit of land, as well as the Rio Tinto Kennecott. They own a lot of land as well. Now Rio Tinto has, kind of shrunk their operation a little bit over the last, call it 5 years. Do they part with some of the land? Yet to be determined. I think that there's maybe a want, who knows? They could be the next group to get into industrial development. You never really know. but yeah, those are the two entities, big entities in our market there that do own a majority of that land out that way, and that is kind of what plays into the lack of supply thereof.
So they haven't made any comments about planning to develop some of that, or have any
You
plans
you
on it?
you always you
Still an
always
unknown.
you always hear something. You always hear some things, but and for us in our world, until it comes out of the ground, it's all fake.
So they're
So
so they're ready to list it and
yeah,
get busy working.
yeah.
So
So
what are the biggest industrial demand you see right now?
yeah, so given what's the kind of the headwinds in the market and the economy and how that plays into the industrial market, a lot of the bigger transactions haven't really it's kind of slowed down. The market's kind of slowed down the last 2 or 3 years on bigger industrial leases, where we're still seeing a tremendous amount of inquiries from investors and developers as well as tenants is in the smaller product, anything under 5,000 square feet, and then the shallow bay product, call it 5 to 10,000 feet with dock. And so that's where a tremendous amount of interest is really coming from, is the lack of product that is in our market for that, and the amount of money that wants to be in our market with that type of asset.
That seems, I mean, is this what you would call falling under the flex space banner,
Yep.
which seems to be high demand everywhere right now?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. Everywhere. I mean, we get a lot of calls on, do you have, I want multi-tenant, call it 20 to 80,000 feet, value add, and upside, and average lease term being less than 2 or 2.5 years, and looking for market to market deals, and it's extremely hard to find in our market. You're lucky if you find one. There's a long list of people who want it.
is there seems to be in certain parts of town a good amount of that being built. Is that but it's not a ton. It's not at least that's my impression. I'm wondering, it doesn't seem like, is that just due to lack of space to build?
Yeah, I mean, anything with development the last little bit, it's been tough just because construction costs and debt, um, it not penciling, but it's costly. You got to think it's roughly 25, depending on who your contractor is, like $25,000 a bathroom. Demising walls are really expensive these days. Um, and those, to make up that type of product, you have a lot of demising walls and you have a lot of bathrooms. And that's really why we don't see a lot of it. And we've also had a land value disconnect between buyers and sellers. Sellers thinking that their dirt is worth what it was, during the pandemic, when we hit market highs for pricing, for dirt pricing. And so we have started to see some sellers get a little bit more, um, I guess, used to what the market price might be for dirt. Does it still pencil from a development standpoint? It's not easy, but we're getting a lot more calls in the last 3 months than we were, last year or the year before that.
Okay. Was that high during the pandemic? Was that a lot of speculation? Is that kind of what was driving everybody so high then? Or was it just the such low interest rates that,
Yeah. Yeah. Interest rates, I mean, some say, well, some say they'll never see interest rates that low in their lifetime again. But yeah, because the price of debt was so low, everybody was going vertical. I mean, I think at our peak, we hit just under 15 million square feet delivered in a year, which for our market was crazy. I mean, there's other markets next door, Phoenix and Vegas, who top that number quite a bit, but um, everybody was going vertical. I mean, if an industrial piece of land came to market, there was 2 or 3 offers, full go. There was everything was all systems go. And so when people get used to, okay, how much is my piece of land worth, and then all of a sudden everybody hits the brakes and says, nope, it's not worth that, or nope, I'm backing out, and we don't know what's going to happen, and all these other questions that arise when these things come up. It takes people, a long time to get adjusted to, okay, well, now what's the market price for my piece of land? And so we're starting to get back to deals being looked at, underwriting, coming out with a positive conversation than it doesn't make sense. We're starting to get, instead of just saying, yeah, it doesn't work, we're getting, okay, I'm good at this number. If we can get to this number, I'm good to go. So, which is fun to hear.
That's nice here, because we were looking at trying to do some things and couldn't get the numbers anywhere close. So when we look at some of the other, like multifamily, things got so crazy in that time period, really 2020 till when interest rates shifted. And now there's a lot of operators who are in trouble. With dirt, now you don't have the same expenses going into it, but you do have holding costs. And if people expected to see, something happen, has there been any distress in the industrial market, or is it kind of just kind of held and not gone down?
Yeah, there's been some projects that have come up. There's not really been that many that have been, I would say, real distress. There has been some that have been distressed. There's a couple that come to mind, but outside of that, our market, it's been pretty strong. Typically Utah's economy is usually one of the last to get affected by something negative and one of the first to bounce back. We have a top 5 economy in the country. It's been that way for half a decade. So that kind of plays into some of the distress factors, and we're also a tight knit community. So typically, if something is under distress, you can walk down the road, somebody, and they'll buy it from you without you ever getting a sniff of it. So, there hasn't been too much distress. There's a lot of local players here, and it's a lot of, people that have just been in the market, so they understand how to weather for a storm better than most people. But there's a lot more opportunities today than there's ever been. There's no questions about that, whether it's distress or not.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Surgeon Syndicate. I hope this has been of value to you. This has been some great introduction to, or deeper dive into industrial properties with Tre Bordeaux. Please join us next time for the second half of our conversation with Tre, as we're going to go further into the world of industrial real estate. Also, keep an eye out. We've got a series of interactive live webinars coming up to help kind of walk people through the questions they still have that maybe haven't been answered on the show. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be coming soon. And thank you for joining us today on Surgeon Syndicate.
Do you care about paying too much in taxes? And would you like to save more of your hard-earned dollars? Here's what we found. We found that most financial professionals have a one-size-fits-all solution. So the question is, would it make it easier for you to have someone tailor your tax solutions to your individual needs so you can keep more of your money and do what you want with it? That is exactly what we do at Excelstra.
As surgeons, we know the difference between routine surgery versus life-threatening interventions. And I want you to know that I've used Unicia and her team for my personal financial intervention, and I love the results. I would do you a disservice if I didn't recommend them to you.
We'd love to help you, so let's jump on a call and see how we can collaborate. Simply go to www.excelstra.com/McManus and book your free call today.
This has been an episode of Surgeon Syndicate. If you got value from this episode, you know other surgeons are hungry to become job optional, and you can help them by sharing this content today. Schedule a call and we can make a plan. Looking forward to having you with me on the next episode.